call the meeting to order. We can get started. Okay. So we call the meeting to order at 6:32. I'll call the roll. Sandy Huckner. Here. Mark Wagner.
Here.
Scott Tonder.
Here.
Genevieve Mossman. Here. And Chairman Little. Yep. And then myself, Mary. Okay, public comment? Do we have anybody who'd like to make a comment before we get started?
I was just going to ask if the board had considered if in fact you're going to have cannabis here in the county as far as sales possibilities, if it doesn't make sense to try and at least work out an economic development plan type of system where whoever wants a license or the ability to sell it has to come up with a qualified, good economic development plan, that it's not just the equivalent of a liquor store, for example, that there has to be something else other than that. One of the other things that's going to be is that the county's going to have to deal with lots of cash because it's a cash business, and that's going to be something to be considered. And if you do this the right way and charge people accordingly, you could rebate some of that money back to the sheriff's department, essentially, for the unfunded mandate that they're going to have, at least initially, of expunging the records.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. To answer your question, which usually we don't do at public comment, but because this is a discussion type meeting, have we considered that? No, we haven't considered anything yet. Tonight is the introductory meeting where we are throwing it out there. I'm sure there will be many meetings left to come. So those are things that we will take into consideration. One thing to remember is there have been rules promulgated that counties can only do certain things. So, you know, we have to live within our means, so to speak, and we cannot make any rules that are more restrictive than the act. So we'll have to see how that plays out as changes are made to the public act and things like that. Did you have a comment?
I had the opportunity to meet in Springfield with Dr. Randall from Colorado. She's an ER doctor, and so we spent a day at the Capitol, and it was really a very informative day. And she had with her another lady who is over workforce in marijuana and how the impact it's had in the workforce. And so I have a lot of interesting things that's happened in Colorado, and none of them are good. They've had so many problems. And then recently I sat in on a webinar with the Midwest truckers and the problems that they're having and what they anticipate. And this was given for the township people so that you could sit in on it. And there's a lot of things that we have not considered. We've been given a lot of information one way, but then there's this other side that we really need to look into. I've got a stack that high of what's going on, and as far as the income, it's the state's now recommending only 3%. Where they were talking 45% on the taxes for the local, but there's opting out, and that's what a lot of these places are doing. Morton, and so there's ordinances and everything that's been written up now. So there are guidelines to follow to opt out, so that your county or your municipality can't opt out.
Yes. Sheriff, did you have anything to?
Just real quick. Apologize for my attire. It was a hospital day today with the family, so got a lot going on. For me, it's no secret. Spent 11.5 years in task force, and I hate to be that guy. I did this and I did that, but unfortunately, I may have to do a little bit of that. Had quite a few cases in the county concerning cannabis. I had one individual that lived just on the outside of town that he was making his own dabs, $5 a piece for a pin drop, $40 a gram, and that found its way into our high school. And his main suppliers was our high school kids, and that's my concern. I know it's gonna, so I've been read that it increases ER visits because the THC level is a lot higher than what it used to be back then. I know that we talked a little bit earlier when I took office that I had the big case, and it was all marijuana, and that yielded $114,000, and that was a trailer in a trailer park here in the county, and well over 70 pounds of pot. If we get this passed, I know that I read even today that they don't want the full tax put on right away when it comes to the counties and the municipalities because they want to get established. I mean, the state does. They don't want the black market price to be cheaper because they want to get going. But that's what it's going to do. I've dismantled several cannabis grows in this county, reached them by water, reached them by land, and blown over them. And the amount of production of cannabis and the money that comes on the black market is quite atrocious, to be quite honest about it. I've dealt with people that don't even have jobs, yet they pay for their entire family's living and everything just on black market cannabis. So I certainly have a lot of concern in the matter. I thank you for your time. Thank you for listening for me, and I'll definitely.
Okay. Do you think that controlling it, and I know we got the issue of black market over the next year or 2 or 3 or whatever, because we know that's going to be. Do you think in 5 years there'll be a better control where the black market won't?
I think anytime.
You know, because we don't do it with alcohol. You know,
Right.
we don't really have, moonshine's not that big. We can regulate it. And I'm just asking.
No, you're fine. I think without us, basically dropping the tailgate of a truck and visiting them, we're not gonna know.
Sure.
So, no, you're great. I think that's always gonna be there. Anytime anybody can make a dollar, that's what they're gonna do.
Right.
They're gonna make that
Sure.
dollar. And that's what the drug game is. They don't care about the individual who's selling the drug too. They wanna make the dollar.
Right.
And I know a lot of people that have medical issues that cannabis does help, but we're talking about legalizing across the board. And when I had training here just a couple weeks ago, down the street here, the instructor that came over and trained that, there's going to be some issues with, say, high school kids that have medical need for marijuana that's going to have to be smoking that at school. I know it says 21, but what are you going to do when you go to college? You got 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. And I know that's a little bit further than what we're dealing with tonight, so I apologize for
That's
getting
all
off.
right.
But,
It's all, like you said. it's
we're
what
certainly
they're
going to
talking
have some issues. We, according to alcohol, we got DUI accidents now just in alcohol. Well, now you're going to double it because you've got cannabis
Sure.
following it up. So that could be an issue as well. And then, of course, your burglaries and thefts going to go up because if they're too high that they don't go to work, then they still want to afford the marijuana. What comes next? So it's a vicious circle, actually.
Yep.
So it really is. I don't know if I quite answered what you're saying.
No, that's what I'm just wondering. I'm just wondering, is there a way for us to get a handle on it in
I
4 or
don't-
5 years? If we do something where we can control it, or we being our society
Right.
can control it a little bit better than black market. I mean, when we went through the prohibition, we didn't stop. The same thing happened,
Right.
We know we had illegal booze
Right.
all over the place. Does it help us to have it where we have an opportunity to try to control it? That's what I'm looking at. I don't.
No, I understand that, and I
You know?
think it comes down to, look at the pros and cons. Is it
Yeah.
something that's good enough that we want our children to come up in? I mean, okay, I remember as a little boy, mom and dad saying, they're going to disguise that drug to make it look like candy. Well, what is the THC gummies that we have out here? They're made to look like gummy bears and candy bars, and it's the same thing all over again. If it's going to be so good for you, then sell it outright. Let's don't disguise it. So there's got to be a trick to it somewhere. I just don't, it doesn't make sense to me. But that's just my opinion.
No,
Yeah,
it means something, Sheriff.
No, thank you.
We want to hear from you.
Thanks, sir. Anyone else for public comment? Yes. You can state your name for the record, please.
Okay. I'm Jonathan Steele. I'm from First Fruits off
Okay.
Highway 16. Um, And I really believe I'm not trying to be debateful or preachy or anything, but I believe I'm not just from First Fruits. I believe I'm from the Lord, and we all, if anybody has a walk with the Lord, then we would know before Him that it's not right. And this is coming from somebody who used to smoke pot. So I used to be into that, and I know why I was into it. And it was not for any good reason. It was all selfish, you know, and that's just all that this really, I believe, wraps around is selfishness. Whether we can control it or not, I just don't think we should do it, period. You know, simply for the fact that right is right and wrong is wrong, and because some people want to make a decision to do wrong doesn't mean we need to make a decision to bow down to it. That's really all I can say. I mean, I can tell you firsthand of the results of things that I could bring the whole house out here to you, and they would all tell you that the reason they're in First Fruits, a big chunk of them, is because that was the door that they cracked open when they were younger and said they would never do, and they ended up doing, and it has set their lives back. You know, it started a chain of events that set their lives back. You know, and just to feel good in the moment, you know. And are people going to continue to do that, to make decisions to feel good in the moment? Yeah, but I don't think, there has to be a standard and there has to be a bar, and it's for us as we're in the positions right here to make the standard, and to just maintain that standard. And for me, it's just very simple, but that the standard isn't something that I come up with. The standard is something that the Lord came up with to do the best that we can do to live lives pleasing to the Lord. And this would definitely open a door to take them down the wrong paths worse and worse, you know. Once you begin that compromise, it leads to another compromise. So, but I did want to just present myself too, if you have any questions on behalf of what we've seen at First Fruits. You know, I wanted to make myself available to just if there are any questions at all. You know everybody here knows what we do out there, right, at First Fruits, so, okay.
Does everybody? I do, but does everybody? You guys do? Okay.
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 So,
All right, well, we
that's all I
appreciate you
have.
coming, and, you know, we're gonna talk tonight about future meetings and possibly a town hall type meeting, and,
Yeah.
we certainly would welcome your input from your perspective.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Okay, anybody else with public comment? Okay, if not, a couple things to remember, you know, like I said before, we have to follow the rules as far as the act goes. Another thing to remember is we can only regulate the dispensaries potentially. We can't regulate people using it. So unfortunately, that's going to be legal. Where we have a little bit of a hammer is whether or not we opt in or opt out of having dispensaries located in our county. And then the
that's
taxation, things like that.
Unincorporated parcels of the
Yes,
county, right?
yes.
So Grafton can do
Right.
their own field.
Jerseyville does their own, right. And we haven't even spoken with them yet to see what plans. It's early yet. I know January 1's right around the corner, but changes are still being made to the act, and in a communication that the chairman received today from, what is that from, Don?
From the Taxpayers Federation, Maurice, which one do you have?
About the fall veto session. Must have not printed the second page. United Counties.
UCCI, and then also to the County Board Association. There is some expected tweaking of the existing state statute in the fall veto session, which will take place for, I think, about a 10-day period in November. It is possible they may tweak it regarding the amount of potential revenue on for taxation, sales taxes on any dispensaries that may be located in a city or a county. I didn't catch her name.
Joyce?
Yes.
Joy.
Yes.
You had mentioned the 3% as a possibility. It's also possible that the county can also tax in a municipality, I think up to 0.75% for any sales, so either 0.75 or 3%. There may be some adjustments as far as what the state would retain, as they often play with the local government distribution fund for sales and income tax. They may retain a larger percentage of that as a so-called handling fee. So it is uncertain right now, other than it is expected that there will be some tweaking of the existing state statute. So I guess the one thing is stay tuned as far as what the state is proposing, or representatives or senators may be proposing on this. There is some latitude, and I don't mean to take over
No.
your, there is some latitude that local governmental entities can have. They can opt out, as Ms. Morrison had stated, with the village of Morton, Illinois. There is also an opting in which there would be permits for dispensaries or growing operations, but these, while it may be permitted at the local level, it is still under state regulation with a variety of agencies and departments. As far as how a dispensary would operate, how a growing operation would operate, how some type of processing operation would operate. Taxation at the local level, and then taxation at the state level as far as on the sale and production. So the question ultimately will be before this board and every other local governmental entity. I know I have had a great conversation with Mayor McCormick and Godfrey. They're looking at it. I don't know, I have not had the opportunity to talk with Mayor Russell here in Jerseyville to see what they're thinking about. So it's a new ground for everybody. But it's a rather simplified thing of you either permit a business or you don't permit a business. If you permit a business, at least where the county's concerned, in unincorporated areas, which is outside of every municipality, and in Jersey County, that would be the municipalities that are in existence, or Jerseyville, obviously, a portion of Brighton, over on the east side of the county, Grafton, and Fielding. So they each have a say on their own operations as far as whether they would permit or not permit. And obviously, taxation will be involved as well. So you've got 4 entities, 5 county and 4 municipalities, as far as trying to decide which way to go on this. But beyond that, it's not the same involvement as we would have as far as liquor licenses. We have specific rules as well as the state. In this case, it would be all state regulation as far as the operation.
So we went ahead and scheduled tonight's meeting. At the time, we thought there was somewhat of a fire drill that we had to have if we were going to file an ordinance regarding taxation. We thought that had to be in by September, and that's not.
October
October
1st was
1st,
the
but
original
September
information that has been
It
changed with a little different research. It was mentioned at a meeting in Springfield back in August 1st, as far as a deadline of October 1st. And going back to the well, so to speak, talking to the director of the County Board Association, she recalled it being said, but she did not have any information as who was stating that and dealt with the taxation issue. Further research and chasing down information has revealed that we need to do something if we're going to do anything related to taxation. It would have to, an ordinance would have to be adopted by the board by June 1st. That would then be turned into or no later than June 1st, turned into the Illinois Department of Revenue in order for distribution starting September 1st.
So we went ahead and had the meeting, even though we don't have to take any action tonight, because we wanted to get the ball rolling, start getting people's opinions, start thinking about, what it is that we need to do, and, the path that we're going to take in ultimately making these decisions. So, we did contact the state's attorney. He is currently working with the sheriff, I believe, as far as what they're going to do on the criminal side of things. There are a whole list of issues there as well. He recommended doing nothing until some of these tweaks and some of these changes are made so that we know for sure what we're dealing with. But again, we don't want to wait till the last minute to throw something together. We want this to be a well thought out and educated decision. So, is there anything else anyone tonight would like to talk about? Probably our next, yes, go ahead.
When is the next meeting?
Well, we haven't set one.
Oh,
What do you recommend, Vaughn? What do you think our next steps?
Well, if we're sitting here looking at possible changes in the veto session, they could be significant. And then we have to turn around and come back and redo things that we do. Wouldn't it be wise to see how that shakes out? I know that's a long way down the road, but we're spinning our wheels.
Right.
Because we can do a bunch of stuff right now, we can do all this research, we can do everything, and then all of a sudden they throw something new at the sheriff that this is the way it's gonna come down out of the state, and then we have to do something different, we gotta come back and do it over. I don't know, it just seems to me we need to see how it's gonna shake out.
Well, one of the items that Mary touched on is the expungement of records related to cannabis and marijuana and that same thing. Past convictions. Now that would have to go, obviously, probably some involvement through the sheriff's department.
We have to expunge all of ours.
a lot more involvement because it also would have to go through the state's attorney's office and then into the court system, and then into the circuit clerk's records as well, and then ultimately, I think the state police would also have involvement.
So would that all have to be done by January 1?
Well, that would have nothing to do with what the county would
Okay.
have to do, consider, or not do. That's a separate.
Whether we opt out or anything, that doesn't happen.
Right.
Okay. That's
I
going
would,
to take place.
I would suggest probably additional consultation with the state's attorney, as well as the sheriff, and then as you're reading through the items, just jotting questions down where we can get some additional answers from the 5 or 6 state agencies that are also going to have a hand in this. We have no zoning in the county, but one question that if there seems to be a desire, at least on the county, to consider this, does the county have the ability to restrict the location of a dispensary in the unincorporated areas, X amount of distance from a school, a daycare center, a church, anything else in which there exists a population or a contingency of individuals under the age that would be served by a dispensary. 21 is the age, but there's sometimes local regulations on where certain businesses might be placed. Do we have that ability? In fact, that's one of the questions I sent to an attorney that his name is Kurt Alpooth, Alpooth, with a law firm out of, I believe, Edwardsville. But that's one of the questions that I asked is, do we have that authority, even though we have no zoning in place in the county?
So Don had mentioned a public hall type meeting to get people's opinions and, hear them out. Obviously, a lot of questions, like Don said, as you read through your packets, jot down questions that you have. You can forward those to me. We'll try and chase down answers to those. Then we'll put together a presentation type with the questions and things like that after the November meeting. Stop me if you disagree. After the November veto session, and certainly invite the public, and we'll present it. We'll hear from everyone, and then see where we are at that time. And in the meanwhile, I'll work with Don and with the sheriff, state attorney, those new developments, things like that. So it's a big deal, not just for us. It's like Don said, it's all the municipalities and everyone around us is dealing with this. It's a real big deal. So we want to take it seriously, and we want to hear people's input. Anything else that anybody has for tonight? Anything else you want to cover, Don?
I have nothing else at this time.
Okay. I appreciate everybody coming. Does anyone else have any other public comment before we wrap it up?
I have one. There are a lot of out-of-state sponsors that are, they want money. They're investors, and they are targeting so many places in Illinois, and we're talking big money coming in from them. And so they're going, most of them say they've never smoked pot, they never intend to. This is an investment. And so they intend to make a lot of money off of our kids, because they really don't care about us. They just care about the revenue they're going to make. and I have quite a lot of information on it. Even pension funds from other states are investing.
All right, anything else, anyone? If not, thank you all for your time. Yes, you have something, Sheriff? You look like you weren't ready to, okay.
I was just waving goodbye.
He's waving by and I'm waving
Okay.
by. Get my wife home.
Well, then I'll make a
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we will adjourn at 7:03.